Postulation Day. I'd like to give your representative the opportunity to present your list, and then after that, you can say a few words to the public if you'd like. I'll peruse your list very briefly and while you speak.
People of St. Maarten, the wonderful, beautiful, strong, hard-working candidates of the United People's Party, and my deputy leader, my brother and my friend. Today is a very important day for St. Maarten because St. Maarten has just presented the list of the most capable, the most dedicated, and the people who love St. Maarten so much that despite whatever is said, despite whatever challenges we face, they know, we know, that we are the best team to lead this country. That's a fact. St. Maarten for a long time has dealt with what? Instability. We solved it. We've dealt with issues and buildings like the hospital being completely stagnant. We started. Today is the day that we begin our journey to finish it, to continue the work of the people of St. Maarten in a way that every single voter that casts their vote on one of these wonderful people here, myself and our deputy leader, can be proud, can be confident that for the next 4 years, we will be well represented in the Parliament of St. Maarten, and we will be well represented in the government of St. Maarten. We are capable, we are dedicated, and our love for St. Maarten, no one can ever question. Every day that I come to this Parliament, every day that this minister enters the government building, we have one thing on our mind, one thing in our heart. That's the people of St. Maarten deserve good representation. They deserve hard work. They are tired of excuses. And whatever ills any person could have had of any government, one thing they can stay confident in this Parliament and in this government, when you have someone from the United People's Party in there, we get the job done. I want to wish everyone a great election. Listen to the issues. Don't be fooled by just promises. Look at the track record and the ability of the people that we have presented here today and the burning desire to serve. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you today the winning list of the United People's Party for the January 2024 election. The United People's Party. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, MP Bryson. I've noted that you submitted a list for 23 candidates. We will peruse that list on Monday, according to the law, on the 27th. On the 28th of November, you'll be notified in writing by the Voting Bureau whether your list is in order or if there are any defaults. If there are defaults, you're given a 3-day period to cure those by the 1st of December. In the meantime, on the behalf of the Voting Bureau, I would like to congratulate your party. And also, I have this proof of submission for you that you can take with you. So if you want to come over and grab this. And of course, as a party that already has a seat currently in Parliament, you're exempted from the endorsement requirements tomorrow. So congratulations and good luck. A pleasant good afternoon to the party. Welcome on behalf of the Voting Bureau on this Postulation Day. I'd like to give your representative the opportunity to present your list, and then after that, you can say a few words to the public if you'd like. I'll peruse your list very briefly and while you speak.
People of St. Maarten, the wonderful, beautiful, strong, hardworking candidates of the United People's Party, and my deputy leader, my brother and my friend. Today is a very important day for St. Maarten because St. Maarten has just presented the list of the most capable, the most dedicated, and the people who love St. Maarten so much that despite whatever is said, despite whatever challenges we face, they know, we know, that we are the best team to lead this country. St. Maarten for a long time has dealt with what? Instability. We solved it. We've dealt with issues and buildings like the hospital being completely stagnant. We started. Today is the day that we begin our journey to finish it, to continue the work of the people of St. Maarten in a way that every single voter that casts their vote on one of these wonderful people here, myself and our deputy leader, can be proud, can be confident that for the next 4 years, we will be well represented in the Parliament of St. Maarten, and we will be well represented in the government of St. Maarten. We are capable, we are dedicated, and our love for St. Maarten, no one can ever question. Every day that I come to this Parliament, every day that this minister enters the government building, we have one thing on our mind, one thing in our heart. That's the people of St. Maarten deserve good representation. They deserve hard work. They are tired of excuses. And whatever ills any person could have had of any government, one thing they can stay confident in this Parliament and in this government, when you have someone from the United People's Party in there, we get the job done. I want to wish everyone a great election. Listen to the issues. Don't be fooled by just promises. Look at the track record and the ability of the people that we have presented here today and the burning desire to serve. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you today the winning list of the United People's Party for the January 2024 election. The United People's Party. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, MP Bryson. I've noted that you submitted a list for 23 candidates. We will peruse that list on Monday, according to the law, on the 27th. On the 28th of November, you'll be notified in writing by the Voting Bureau whether your list is in order or if there are any defaults. If there are defaults, you're given a 3-day period to cure those by the 1st of December. In the meantime, on the behalf of the Voting Bureau, I would like to congratulate your party. And also, I have this proof of submission for you that you can take with you. So if you want to come over and grab this. And of course, as a party that already has a seat currently in Parliament, you're exempted from the endorsement requirements tomorrow. So congratulations and good luck.
Hey, I see myself. Orlando Bryson, MP, the hardest working member of Parliament in the history of St. Maarten. You choose. So.
Hey, let's go. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon to everybody. Good afternoon to those when traffic can go don't work. Good afternoon, those who walk in, going home after a hard day of work in the phone. Good afternoon to those who's in the car, I don't know, maybe they done shopping. Good afternoon to those in home who relax. Good afternoon for those maybe those tourists in the bus taxi. Good afternoon, you guys. Conversation, you guys, special edition because we don't begin on Friday afternoon. Well, I'm telling you, maybe it's because it's Patu body today. So we gotta wish Patu.
Happy body.
Happy body, yeah. You know, this is a period you have the half moon Capricorn who going, and then you have the full moon Capricorn coming up. So these guys is the half moon Capricorn. So that's why you see the days I don't mix up in the days, you know. Yeah, exactly. So if Patu listen to us, whatever hotel he is this afternoon, happy body. I hope you see more years, and I hope in 20 years he gonna be better and he won't be, we can still be in the studio. So guys, we have a big fellow with us this afternoon. And I say a big fellow, yeah, he big.
Wow.
Big. Yes, from the time walking inside here, he takes space. So we have him in the house with us. For those who was following us on social media, last time we didn't say who we had as guests because we had another party. But from the morning, I think by 8 o'clock, Janet, me, we show you who we have inside, and people say like, "Are you sure he come in?" The man, he there in the house. What else? He there in the house, and we ain't gonna cook him because that's the last days, you know, the last days. But we know we don't need to cook him because he will go straight to the point. From the debate and long term, we see that.
You're welcome to try.
So guys, I don't need to introduce my co-host because she don't take the mic before I introduce you in the house with me. Janet is in the house with me this afternoon. Listen, I see she in the house. I can see the guest here. She in the house. Election almost done. So I listen every day calling you the other name. I could just be Janet Wara Gums. Voila. Okay. Voila. We have in the house with us. And my guests, no strangers to media, no strangers to social media, no strangers to St. Maarten, no. MP Orlando Bryson is in the house. MP, how are you?
I am very good. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me. You know, I wonder if there's a little doubt that why would I not come to speak to these people that ask us all the tough questions? I've been watching, boy.
We don't ask tough questions.
Yeah. Just because you ask a hard question with a smile on your face, that doesn't mean it's not a tough question.
It's not bad. We just ask some questions. We know that hey, people want to know what's going on, the truth, and then we go after people judge. And I believe whatever the candidate or lawyer St. Maarten smart, you could catch in and say, listen, what you are saying is not true.
Yeah, and that's why if you have members of parliament that do their research that are honest with the public, like myself, I think you won't have any issues this election.
So we know, like, I ain't gonna say you're like challenging, but you're challenging because you sometimes, you know, like hit with people maybe don't want you hit. So that's right. So MP, we know election, you have is really tough. That's your second election as leader of the party.
Yes.
And you're a young politician because we see the last election, a lot of young politicians went in white as young politician. But before my co-host remind me, we have a question with the ask before because you know everybody know you and the other station, everybody knows social media, but we would like to know who you are.
God, I love that question. So Franklin Bryson is my dad. A lot of people, especially on the Dutch side, but some people even in France, would know my dad from being in the banking sector. So he was with the Rhode Islands Bank, and then for some time with a bank called the Commercial Bank, and also the Christian Kingdom Credit Union for almost 30 years. You know, and he's always been somebody that in banking he saw it as something that was supposed to be, yes, of course, a bank needs to make a profit, but he always saw it as the bank makes a profit by helping people. Because once you build people and you build your economy, then you can get people to be able to pay interest. You don't have to go and foreclose on their homes. You make it affordable enough so that they can afford to pay. So my dad, I would say, is best known in banking, and my mom, she would be best known as. Have you all ever seen this blue and white bottle called R&B Island Mobby in the different supermarkets?
I don't drink it a lot.
Oh, you drink it a lot, then you will know either my mom or my mom's product very well. That's my mother that does the Mobby.
Well, congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. So I for the banking and for the Mobby.
That's good. Let's stay local.
Yeah.
So we see your background, and as young politician, you run for election, leader of the party. Today, after 4 years, how you feel? Because most of the time we see election day, we criticize you because you're going to laws.
Yes.
And today, when you watch what you do during 4 years, do you feel like you're done or you need to go more? I don't believe you're done because you're in election again.
Exactly.
But your laws, because you have opposition, and that's why it's politics. Before I was panels. I don't know if you guys used to drink coffee together, but I was good panels, and now we get criticized for the laws, and you say like, why did you guys propose? So after 4 years, how you feel?
I feel like I've raised the bar in Parliament. You know, in our system, we have a parliamentary system where the Parliament is the one that oversees the government, that brings legislation, that really is the representative of the people. But that hasn't happened really over the last 10 years, let's say before I really got into Parliament and realized, wait a minute, my job as a parliamentarian, and people treat it like the job is just to point fingers. Either you only defend the government because you're part of the coalition, or you bash the government because you're part of the opposition. I actually started in Parliament as an opposition member. And I remember there would be cases where the government did something good, and I would say, I think this is good. As a matter of fact, maybe I can add to it by also proposing this. That was a very unorthodox thing for back then. That, you know, it was really a big divide between opposition, coalition. And I think that came back because of 30, 40 years of St. Martin transitioning from an island council system where it was very much so. Opposition basically had no say. They couldn't bring legislation, they couldn't do anything. So it was just about bashing that the government is no good, the government is no good. And the executive council, the coalition side, had all the power. So they would just say, whatever the opposition say, they're just crying, I could just do what I want. In a parliamentary system, it's much different. Every individual member of parliament has the right to propose legislation. And I noticed when I came into parliament that no one was really focused on that. I noticed that the level of speaking in parliament was very, you know, without people doing any research, they would just talk. Yeah, I went down the road the other day and I see so and so and so. Like, I was like, no, like, how about before you speak on a topic, you do the actual research and you understand the topic, and then you deliver on the floor of parliament. So my goal was always to raise the level of parliament, not just for myself, but for the entire parliament, because I know that is something very contagious, or I had hoped so. And in some cases it was. You saw people starting to kind of say, I remember even Christopher Emmanuel say, he said, one thing with Bryson, he teach me how to do research. You know, he said that on the floor of parliament, you know, because people realize that the days of just kind of coming only with the fluff, of course, we're politicians. You're going to want to bring a little flair to what you say. But it can't be just about that. And I think what has happened is that now you have opposition members that are like, oh boy, I'm in an election and I'm running against this guy. How do I compete with that if I did absolutely nothing? And the only way I think they do is to try to discredit the work that I've done. But it's very hard because just yesterday, for example, I passed the banking legislation in Parliament, which gives every single person in St. Martin the right to a bank account within 10 days. You know, that's something that affects everyone in St. Martin. You know, I've brought many other legislation, for example, to pay the police officers for the first time when they got their payments that were owed. I brought legislation for that. So I feel like this election is a very awkward thing for the opposition because it's like You're supposed to be talking about your accomplishments. You have none. Back in the day, you could have maybe get away with, and this government is no good, and there's no good, no good. So vote for me because I'm better. But I feel like the electorate has gotten a little wiser when it comes to that. So you'll notice the public meetings. Those parties that were in opposition or did nothing, they don't get any support. No one is giving them that support because no one is believing the lies. They're not believing the false promises. They want to see a track record of work, and if you don't have that, don't come talk to me. So I think that I've at least been somewhat successful in showing the electorate what it means to be a member of parliament.
Oh, I remember you were one of the first young persons in maybe get into politics. I remember that from. And what made you go into politics?
It wasn't something that I had planned. I really, my passion originally was always tourism, and my dream job actually before politics was to become the director of tourism for St. Maarten, and God blessed me with that opportunity. I did end up becoming the director of tourism for St. Maarten. I was the counterpart to, I don't know if you remember Kate Richardson. She was the director on the French side. Well, that was my position on the Dutch side. And she, I mean, all of us realized that, it's one thing to be a director or a civil servant, and that's something I even spoke to her about. But at the end of the day, we can bring all the proposals we want, but it's the politically appointed people that ultimately have to decide. And it was very frustrating to me that I knew I had such good ideas to develop our country, to bring so much more tourists to the island, to bring more budget to marketing the destination. And they were falling on deaf ears, both on the minister's side and the parliament side. So I already was building a frustration after 2 years of being in a tourism director. We got a lot done. I got new airlines to the country, we brought a new logo, we brought new hotels, a lot of good stuff. But it was always limited by the fact that I didn't feel like the politicians truly understood the importance of tourism. After Hurricane Irma, the government had fallen, and I remember being approached at the time by Theo Heiliger, who eventually did make me the leader of the UP, and he wanted me to run with him, and I was ready to run. He offered me number 4 on the, well, it was going to be the UP at the time. Then a couple of days before the election, he said, "You know what? I think I'm going to do something different." I'm like, "What?" "I'm going to form with Sarah Westcott Williams. I'm going to make one party." And I said, "Theo, I can't support that. I've observed that one of the people and one of the political parties that had held back, tourism and development, and particularly one thing I'm very passionate about, which is Mullet Bay, the Democratic Party has been part of that." Okay. He told me, he said, "I know, Orlando, but right now, I'm dealing with a lot. It might be good to have Sarah to help me out." I'm like, "Well, with all due respect, I can't run that," and I pulled back. But then I was approached by a smaller party, the USP, who did still encourage me that, "No, man, you have too much potential. You need to run. You will get elected." And I did. I got elected on the USP. And then the government fell again about a year and a half later. That used to be the trend. Government keep falling on that side over and over. And when that happened, this time around, Theo Heiliger approached me again. He said, "This time now I'm really out of it." And he said he knew he made a big mistake forming with the Democratic Party, because the typical kind of toxic behavior and the backbiting and stuff like that manifested itself into the UP. Okay. And he said, "We need to bring back the UP, and I think you're the only guy that can help us bring it back." And I said, "Well, Theo, you know what? No problem. I want to just do this for 2 terms, so 8 years as leader, and give me that opportunity, and I know I'm going to make you proud." So that's when I ran as the leader of the United People's Party, and it wasn't an easy road, but I think we've done what we set out to do, which is, regardless of how many ministries we have or how many seats we have, let's make sure we show the people that who is the hardest working group of people that you can elect. And between myself, Minister Otley, the other members of parliament, we've done a great job doing that. So me getting into it was trying to get to the top of the top position possible that helps my ideas manifest to the people of the country.
MP, we know you love that business sector. I said you love, I don't follow you, so I know you love small businesses. And that new term, when you guys, new government, of government, I believe it's gonna be a coalition again, but You never know what could happen. Maybe gonna go down in the studio of government. But small businesses, how do you see the small businesses in this island? Do your government or propose help or different type of policy, new laws for them?
Yeah. Well, you see, the main thing, again, coming back to my tourism background, look, 90% of the GDP of St. Martin, the whole life, comes from tourism. So, yes, eventually we want to diversify, bring new industries and so on. But in the short term, that's not going to happen. We have to be realistic about that. What has happened in St. Martin, though, is that we have all these tourism dollars coming in, and it would be like having a plastic bag with water, and all of those dollars are coming in. But the problem was someone just took a little pin, and there's droplets that's falling into the economy. A lot of it is staying kind of stuck within the international business, the large businesses, and so on, and it's not trickling down properly to it. What we want to do and what we've continued to do is kind of open the bag, where more of the funding is flowing through the economy. And a lot of people think that big business is a culprit of that. No. If the government has proper dialogue with the hotels, with the casinos, with the construction companies like we have, and explain to them, look, we can find a way where you can make money because that's not your purpose. That's your purpose. You're not a foundation. You're not a charity. I understand you need to make money, but we need to find a balance where you make sure my small businesses are able to win as well. One of the key things we did with that is, for example, when a large project now wants to come to St. Martin, they want certain benefits. They might be able to want to get their building permit quicker. They want maybe a tax break. All of that is possible. It's done everywhere in the world. However, we can now attach conditions to that. So, for example, we had the Hotel Villeven, 5-star beautiful resort that's coming to Indigo Bay on the Dutch side. We have the JW Marriott that's coming where Don Beach used to be. And what we said is, when negotiating with them, no problem. All these things you want are fine. But here's what we want. We want that 80% of the workers are going to be local. We want that if you have a main contractor, that 60% of the contracting has to go subcontracted to local companies. We will not allow you to bring in cement into the country and concrete into the country because we have enough local concrete companies, etc., etc., etc. So our policies are geared to just kind of drawing the line and making people know St. Martin is a great place to invest, but you have enough capable workforce and contractors here locally that can supply you. Once you're able to connect to them, they almost have a better respect for you rather than the politicians that would just say, I could help you get a hotel license, but give me a little something on the side and I'm good. That was what used to hold back a lot of the problems with investments that used to come into the country. They would turn away potential investors by making it about themselves. Whereas investors that go to anywhere in the world, they understand that if you're speaking to a politician, they represent the people. So they will always want you to work and bring your business in a manner that benefits the people. So those are the type of policies where we're making sure the economy of St. Martin is $13 billion that flows through the island. And the problem is that before maybe only 3% of that would trickle through the economy. Now we're making sure that closer to 20-30% of that is distributed through the economy.
Janet?
Yes. I know that, okay, from what you said, tourism is your baby. Okay, but we saw with COVID, things, tourism was, let's say, non-existent for the little time that COVID went on. And what's the alternative to tourism? What's the alternative?
I think there's two industries that we've already started very heavily promoting and developing on the Dutch side of St. Martin. One is the cannabis industry. We recently, I believe the government selected a company to help us build the whole legal framework to be able to legalize marijuana very responsibly in a manner that also decriminalizes it so that those that have been penalized by it in the past not only can get it expunged from their records, but have a priority in being able to participate in that industry. Look, at the end of the day, we could say whatever opinion you have of the use of marijuana, it is prevalent in our country. And we just ignore it. No one's taxing it. No one's regulating it. No one's checking to see if this stuff is even safe. Is it real? No one's giving provisions for those that might fall into addiction so that they have a way to deal with addiction. Yet alcohol, which is arguably much more damaging than marijuana, is totally legal and it's all over the place and people unfortunately still drink too much, still get into car accidents because of it. But marijuana has been labeled as this product that's just so bad. As you can see, most of the world is waking up to that reality. And too much of anything is bad. You know, too much alcohol is bad, too much marijuana is bad, too much many other things. It's about discipline and moderation. So our role is to legalize the cannabis industry in a very responsible manner where people are able to pay their taxes, where whatever is grown is goes through regulations that we know it's good, or anything that's imported is coming through a regulated manner. But the key thing that will happen, I think, with that industry, it still kind of ties to tourism. Because can you imagine someone coming off a cruise ship, sitting on the boardwalk, and instead of just taking a bucket of beers for $6, can now, with their family and friends, enjoy the product responsibly, go back on the cruise ship? It would reflect what Amsterdam has created.
Yeah.
It would add a whole new dimension to what it would mean to be able to come to St. Maarten, to responsibly and legally enjoy it. Then you're talking the medicinal benefits of it from a medicinal tourism perspective, where someone in St. Kitts knows that the benefits of this, the possible benefits for epilepsy, for cancer, and all of this, but it's simply illegal right there in St. Kitts. But they're Googling, just like the rest of us, reading all of these research papers that show this is something that can treat my loved one. Well, now they can come to St. Maarten and be here for a few weeks and undergo that treatment legally, which means that it can be now covered by insurance. You see, no insurance, even if the best doctor in the world prescribes CBD or marijuana or so on, can write that prescription and get it covered by insurance if it's legal. But now your insurance company can send you to St. Maarten to get the treatment there where it is legal, where those hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of dollars will start pouring in insurance funds for people who want to come here for medicinal marijuana treatment. So I think that's one major industry. The second is e-commerce. I think in St. Maarten we have a lot of talented people that can begin to export services. I know a lot of graphic designers, for example, that are very talented, and they sell to people that don't live in St. Maarten. You know, they do all the graphic designs, websites, and so on. That's money that someone in England or China or wherever is sending to St. Maarten. And you didn't need not a square meter of land. All that person needed was their laptop, maybe from their home at an office, and doing that work. But you're bringing in money into the country. St. Maarten is very blessed with a multilingual society, which is also very good for e-commerce, because e-commerce, you also, a big part of e-commerce is customer service and customer support. But now you have a multilingual society where you can market yourself in Spain, in Latin America, in French, all the French territories, in the US, in English, because those four languages are so prevalent on the island. So I think we have a natural situation where e-commerce, any online service, can be offered internationally, and people can pay for that product by sending that money to St. Maarten.
How would you be able to monitor the income of what a person is making for e-commerce, for example?
The good thing with e-commerce is that it's all electronic. So someone would have to be very careful not to be honest about their tax proceeds in that sense, because it's all monitored electronically. If someone is sending you money via Revolut, PayPal, Cash App, and so on, it means that it's been sent electronically. And if you're audited, I can ask you to present me with any of your apps, or if it's a very serious situation where we suspect this person has been collecting some serious money, you can approach these e-commerce thing to do an audit. That's where I think banking, that's why I focus so much over these 4 years to regulate banking, to make sure it's much easier for our people, because right now that's been one of the biggest roadblocks, that people aren't able to open an account that allows them to trade online, that allows them to use these type of services. As a matter of fact, recently I kind of came with the ultimate solution for these online services, because there's a product called Revolut. It's very popular in St. Maarten. And on the Dutch side, everyone that was registered in St. Maarten got an email once and said, hey, we're going to close down our services within 14 days, no explanation. So I contacted them. I said, hey, I'm doing some research here. I understand y'all want to stop your online services in St. Maarten. Why is that? Came to find out that apparently they received complaints from our own local banks saying you're not allowed to operate here. Now, you can imagine somebody in a desk in Revolut in the risk department is like, it sounds like a lawsuit. Yeah. They go on the computer, $1.2 million a year in St. Maarten. It's not worth it. We collect maybe 1% of that in fees. Let's just close it down because they're not going to take the risk. It's the same problem with PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. If they don't have a very clear guideline that states you are allowed to operate in our country, then they won't take the risk. So with Revolut, I found, well, let me try with Revolut. I brought a motion of parliament where we made it clear that if the online service not established in St. Maarten is offering online banking service, you are allowed to make use of it. Okay. The day that motion passed, the next day, all Revolut users received the email saying that they're suspending the closure of the accounts. So it showed me that that's really the work of parliamentarians that saved, that prevented so many local people from being able to do business. Because what happens is if you have the Revolut card and I'm doing some graphic design for someone and he wants to pay me $500, he sends it to my Revolut card. Guess what? I can go to the ATM and pull it out. I can go to the gas station and pay for gas. Yeah. I can go to the supermarket and pay for food. That money is now entering our economy. But the banking sector, the fact that they were willing to try to discredit that, it shows that the banking sector has not been the ally of St. Maarten's e-commerce. And that's where I brought legislation now to make it. You must have your right to a bank account. You will open the bank. You will open it within 10 days because they were becoming more powerful than the government because I give you a business license. But sorry, you can't operate yet. You don't have a bank. So I think it's going to be very well monitored because it's all electronic. And because we're going to be able to establish those relationships, I think people should understand, just pay a 5% TOT and go make your money. That's all.
MP, airport, port, what's do up government will touch those two, let me say, economy, do you guys will touch it? The airport we see after Irma, the housing, we saw the bubble we have with it. Port, how do you see the port in the airport, let me say 10 years from now? Because I don't like to say 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Yeah.
How do you see airport and port function?
Well, one of the things that I always say, we were a minor part of this government. We're happy. We did a lot of great things together. One of the things that throughout this term that I've continued to caution my coalition partner about is that the way we manage our government-owned companies politically is not going to work. See, a few years ago, when the United Democrats were in government, they had an extreme where the individual minister, let's say, for example, the Minister of Tourism, was directly responsible over the airport. Unfortunately, that minister, at least under admission of the Prime Minister at the time, was abusing his authority. He was trying to run the airport, micromanage every little thing in the airport. And that's not the idea. A minister should give the overall directions for the operation and the vision for that entity based on the government. So what the Prime Minister did at that time, Leona Marlin, she stripped all of the individual ministers of their power and oversight of the government-owned companies and said, no, the whole group of the Council of Ministers, the government, we now oversee it collectively. So at that time, I could understand why she did that. However, now we've gone to another extreme where we're so hands-off that we kind of say, yeah, but that's a government-owned company, it's a private company. No. At the end of the day, 100% of the shares of the airport, Telem, the harbor, all of these companies are owned by the government. So you need to have at least a certain measure of political influence to make sure that these companies are operating in a way that is in line with the people of the country and the vision of the government. And that is one of the things I think has caused the issues in our government-owned companies, where in the past, the Minister of Rummy, there's issues at GB, he could pick up the phone and say, hey, what's going on here? I need a report tomorrow. Why is GB hacked? How are we going to fix this thing? Now how it is that you have the entire Council of Ministers responsible. Imagine the Minister of Education have to stop what he's doing at the meeting at a school to give quorum to a Council of Ministers meeting to ask the airport, when are you going to fix? That can't work. We need to reinstitute with very clear guidelines. Minister of Tourism, you are responsible for the airport. However, for example, one, you're not allowed to make any financial commitments on behalf of the government. You're not allowed to tell the company who to hire, who not to hire. Those type of decisions, you come back to the Council of Ministers. But operational things that are critical to the functioning of the entity on behalf of the country, the minister has to be able to do it. So one of the key things we're promoting is reinstituting this, what we call the shareholder reps, so that the ministers have the authority to be able to ensure that these entities are in line with the vision of not just the people of St. Maarten, but also the government of St. Maarten. In general, though, I think there's two key things you have to do with the airport. And one is a U.S. pre-clearance. I don't know how much y'all have heard about that, but basically the United States would have a certain territory within the airport where instead of going through immigration, let's say to the left, any flights to France or this or that go this way. If you're going to the US, you turn right. And when you turn right, instead of passing through a St. Maarten immigration officer, you're going to actually meet the US customs officer right away, as if you already landed in the US. What that does is that you've already cleared into US territory. So when you land in the United States, you just pick up your bags and leave. So convenient for the passengers, but for the airlines, they love it as well, because what we have a hard time getting these airlines for is because it's an international flight and we have to compete with other very profitable routes. Like if you have to ask an airline, you have a choice between going from Miami to London Heathrow and charging an average of $1,500 a ticket, or from Miami to St. Maarten and charging an average of $300 a ticket. We're competing with those international slots. But when you have a domestic flight, then you can now have those slots. You can land at 5 in the morning in Miami, or you can leave at 11 and land at 3. You can have red-eye flights. US clearance opens up so many opportunities for us. Once we do that, you will have more American airlines really rushing to come to St. Maarten the way they do in Aruba. One of the key things why Aruba is one of the best destinations in the world, in the Caribbean, as well as the Bahamas, there's two things they have in common. One thing they have in common, US clearance. And I think that's one of the main things. And the other is the expansion of the airport so that we can build more ramp space. I know somebody was sharing some stuff that, the airport rejected a jet from landing at 10:30.
I heard it this morning too.
And it's true.
But
you know why they did? Because there's so many jets and so little parking space. But more importantly, we have ATC controllers that work extremely hard. There's air traffic controllers that make all these jets come. But by law, because of safety reasons, they're only allowed to work a certain amount of hours. You see, if you're working at a radio station or I'm in Parliament, you ask me to work an extra 2 hours, maybe I won't perform as well, but I'll make it do. But you can't take that risk in aviation because those people have to be completely alert all the time. What would happen if somebody said, hey man, listen, I know you was working more than your time there, but stay that extra hour now, let that plane land. And he's falling asleep and that plane crashes, kills people on the ground and in the air, millions of dollars. St. Maarten has a bad space. We don't think about that. But the aviation industry's number one role is safety, not money, safety. St. Maarten has a perfect safety record in terms of landings on that airport. Thank God. We want to keep it that way. So we need to expand with the manpower that we have to make sure, let's have somebody on call available from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. That if you need an air traffic control, you can call them, that they're on rest. And we need more parking space for jets because they drive by the airport right now. You're seeing them like sardines, right?
And we talk a lot about economic and profit. You see a lot of those get up in the morning, maybe they sit them next to the road, they don't know what they're gonna eat later. Or as an up government, what policy you guys planning to put in to help those people? Because we see you guys work in the minimum wage, but in those not working, who don't have a job, they don't have the resources, what you guys plan to do for them?
Well, the two key things for those that are unemployed and in need is training and support. Training is to make sure that the support that we give them every month, I think they should be able to receive, if you're unemployed, at least a minimum wage. We should be able to provide that on the condition that you will receive this. Basically, you'll be paid to go to class. And what we do is, based on the number of work permits that you give, let's say I know I've given out, as a government, 100 work permits for construction workers. Theirs are typically there for 3 years. It is very easy for me to figure out that in 3 years, chances are you're going to need another 100 construction workers. So establish a construction program. We have NEPA, we have the University of St. Maarten. We can even work with surrounding applicants and let's make sure that we train the next generation of workers so that now when these workers expire and another construction company needs workers, you don't need to bring in a foreigner anymore. You can use your own local person. In the meantime, the question would be, yeah, but Rolando, how are you going to pay for that? How are you going to be able to afford it? Yes, that's why I'm always prepared. The, the way you pay for it is you make sure that those that have the privilege to come to our country pay for it. Because here's the thing. People that come to St. Maarten temporarily for work, if it's truly temporarily, that means you're coming here because you have a certain expertise and that company needs you. What we're doing right now, we charge like $3, I think, worth like $1 for the whole year.
Okay.
And that's not sufficient. What should be happening is that for every work permit that's granted, you ensure that the total amount of that is enough to cover the need to train and sustain your unemployed. That number, we've actually done a calculation for it, and it is a sustainable number. And what we call that is pay to stay. When we discuss with the businesses, of course, because again, you have to think what they're going to think. They want one thing. You know what, Rolando? Even if you're going to charge $1,000 for a work permit, $2,000, no problem. Just make the process easier. So the compromise to make sure the unemployed benefit and get training, the persons that need work or are needed for work can come in, and that the business community is willing to pay more is to make the process very simple. You pay, the person can stay. And in the meantime, it's the responsibility of the government to train and sustain. That formula works in many countries. One of the countries that has mastered that is, for example, Dubai. Barbados has mastered that as well. So that anyone that is unemployed, it also kind of culturally does something for you where when people understand that the foreign laborer coming into your country is helping to sustain the poor person that is not able to work, it kind of creates an understanding that the immigrant population that's coming here to help develop our country is helping sustain the most vulnerable in our country. So I think that pay to stay model that we've championed, we have it in our manifesto, that is the model that's going to change the dynamic of what's happening in our country where you have people coming into work. And I always agree, my mother was an immigrant, she came from Colombia. It would be nice if my Colombian family would come here and would be happy to pay to train the local people. And eventually, if after those 3 years you like St. Maarten and you want to make it your home, then there's an option for you to become a resident or open a business or become a consultant or a contractor. Again, contributing to the local. We have to realize that people are coming here not because they don't want to. They're coming here for a reason.
Yeah.
It's a privilege to be here. So what I always say is we have to protect the right, the rights of the St. Maarten and the Belonger, and ensure the privilege that the foreigners come and enjoy is also made very clear by means of their responsibility.
Done it? Good. Okay. MP, any tax reform?
Yeah.
I know that.
We have two.
Let's go.
Very simple. One is what we call a transaction tax. Again, the problem with our tax system, in my opinion, one of the key problems, it's overly bureaucratic and way too complicated. So I looked at a way and I looked at different tax regimes around the world to see what would work best for St. Maarten. And in Colombia, actually, when I went there on vacation one time and I did a transaction from one account to the next, I noticed a small amount of money. I think it was like transferred like $500 and like $2 was deducted. And I asked, what's this? That's called the transaction tax. What that is a fee that happens for any interbank transactions at 0.2%, very, very minor percentage on every transaction is deducted. So once a deposit is received, the depositor is deducted 0.2%. Okay? That does two things for St. Maarten. If I can remove the need for government to have to go and file income tax, file. Instead, not only 6 people have to file, the banks, because it's now their responsibility to take the 0.2%, send it to the government and say, here's how much I got for you.
Yeah.
Very simple. So instead of auditing 60,000 people, you got to audit 6 people. Easy. And I think that would, based on our calculations, like I said, there's $13 billion moving through our economy. Based on that, when you take the 0.6% and you compare that to what you make in turnover tax, which is a tax that a lot of businesses don't like because it's compounded, you realize that you can overcompensate and even reduce the income tax on the worker, for example. And that is what I believe one of the key things we can do to make tax simpler. But in order to now bring even more money to the country, we see an increase in the tourism tax that's being necessary. Now this is a surprise. Some people say, "Oh, Rolando, you're a tourism guy. You want to raise taxes on tourism?" Yeah, I'm a tourism guy because tourism good for St. Maarten. You know, the only other way I like tourism is when I'm traveling myself. But other than that, tourism is about benefiting, especially in the Caribbean. The most beautiful thing about tourism is that it has brought the Caribbean as an entire diaspora out of a time when we felt we had to be hand to mouth, and now we're bringing these billions of dollars into the economy. But here's the problem. When a tourist goes to a hotel and pays $100 for a hotel room, only 5% of that remains with the government. That's the lowest in the entire Caribbean. Aruba, for example, is at 13%. Why is Aruba charging 13%? Because they realized very quickly tourists are not as price sensitive as the businesses want to think. Oh my gosh, it's now instead of $105, I'm paying $110. I'm never coming to Simon again. Said no tourist ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but what the tourists and the industry would want to see is, okay, if you're going to increase that tax on me, what are you going to do with it? So we want to legislate it that we will increase tourism tax to 11% from 5%, but that 6% is going to go to education, culture, youth, and sports. I mean, how is a hotel going to look at me in my face and say, I don't want you to put that into education, culture, youth, and sports. You come to our country. Your visitors are coming to our country. The culture is the most important thing that you enjoy. The education of the people is what gives you the service that you want. Sports is what motivates our youth to then eventually get into the industry. That is the most important thing you can do with that. And that additional funds will help us to fund all of our educational improvements and so on. And the beautiful thing about that tax, not one local has an increase in tax in our proposal. Tourists will pay for it, not us.
Janet?
Yes. Price control, because a lot of people are complaining. So many Chinese shops are opening all over, but the prices varies from shop to shop. You have to go to each shop to find out, okay, well, how much is the bread here? How much is the? Will there be a price control plan or policies put in place? Because minimum wages, yes, one thing, but price control is another.
So what's interesting about this, and I think more and more people are starting to realize it, in I think it was April in 2023, we instituted what's called expanded basket of goods, where we went from 17 items, of the very basic items, to over 70 of them. We did that back in April, knowing people thought, oh, they just raised the minimum wage before the election. No, we knew we needed to institute a price control, allow at least 6 months for the companies to adjust. I think what's actually happening is that, and that's something we want to work on more, is somehow we keep telling people there is a price control. There's a website we created where I remember when the hurricane was passing near to us, I went to a supermarket and I saw a can of corned beef for $5.50. I went to the website, I think it's called SXM Prices. We went there. It was supposed to be the price control price of corned beef. It was supposed to be $3.20. I said, sir, excuse me, how come this is, sometimes they're like, he know about the website. Oh, that's a mistake. No, Mr. Bryson, no, let me take that down. And then they change it. There is price control. And what we've started to do is do the enforcement now. Because some of the companies maybe thought, government ain't gonna check that. I'm gonna still charge what I want. Let me tell you something about these supermarkets. Once you get them a fine or two, that's about it. They learn that no, it is not worth it to try to make an extra dollar on a can of corned beef compared to that 5,000 gillar fine you're going to end up paying if you don't stick to the price control. So over the last few months, I know it's been very difficult early in 2023 because we had just instituted price control for the first time, this level of price control in 10 years. But with the more inspections that are happening, that some of them are actually being fined for it, you're starting to see that they're actually sticking to the price control that's been put. And the price control is very simple. We're not telling you what to charge. We're just saying that this is the most you should make on it. So if this bottle of water costs you 50 cents, the most you're allowed to make is 20% on top of that, for example. Now, if you want to compete with your fellow, you can say, well, 20% more is 70 cents for that bottle of water. I'm going to charge 65 cents. So this still gives you a bit of a competitive advantage if you're able to, play with the maximum price. But I can tell you, were it not for that basket of goods, considering how food prices around the world have gone up, tremendously. One of the main things that has contributed to food prices that I don't think a lot of people have realized is that the Ukraine is one of the largest agricultural exporters in the world.
Yeah.
You don't think of Ukraine for that. When you research and find out how much grain, which is the most basic thing for pasta, flour, baked goods, all of that comes from grain. And I think it's about 70% of the grain used to come from Ukraine. Guess what happens? The rest of the market increases their prices because now they have less competition. So a lot of products around the world, we've had a lot of increases in beef prices. A lot of the shipping issues also cause prices to go up. If not for the price control, the high prices that we see now would have been much, much worse actually. Because again, we don't say you can only charge $1. We just say you should only profit maximum 20% or 15% or 27%.
Yes. Will you increase the items on the list?
Yes.
Because what I was told, it's not healthy items that are there, and most people know today are looking to the healthy way, so fruits, vegetables, etc. So, will you have an increase of items, and will it be more the healthier option?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. When it comes to vegetables and fruits, price control is much more challenging because the margins that you need to make to justify importing fresh products when you don't hardly grow any of your own is much harder. If you institute a price control on fruits and vegetables, what might actually start happening is that supermarkets might just sell less of it because the problem with fruits and vegetables, they're perishable. So it's hard to give up profit margin because if you buy 100 tomatoes, maybe this week you sell 90 and 10 spoil. The next week, maybe you sell 70 and 30 spoil. So how do we guess what the fair profit margin is for the retailer? So it's very hard to put on those healthy products price control. I think the solution to make sure our people eat healthier is more in the line of agriculture. And yes, yeah. Price control is on your basic imported products, that are non-perishable because they can sit on the shelf for 2 years, and you can't tell me in those 2 years you don't get to sell it. I mean, if you sell at that point, then that's on you. Maybe you're not marketing your business well or whatever. But perishable products is much harder to put the fixed prices on, and most perishable products are agricultural products. And I think what we have planned, we've recently signed an MOU with St. Kitts, for example, where St. Kitts is trying to more reintroduce agriculture. And what they saw is that they don't have as much interest from their own local population to get into it. So now they're looking at St. Maarten. Hey, St. Maarten, you got some farmers willing to come over here. We give you all the land. Okay. Start developing agriculture. And all you got to do is ship it back to your country. Okay. Because what they believe is that now they can be a collaboration between the St. Maarten farmers and the Kittitian farmers to collectively develop the agricultural sector that St. Kitts wants to develop. And I think that's where we can make strategic use of the partnerships we have in our countries. The best way for us to get healthy products is to grow it ourselves. And if we can't grow all here by means of hydroponics, by supporting the limited land that we have, then let's look to our neighbors, even as far as Suriname, Guyana, and see that those land-rich areas are willing to give a very selective land country like St. Maarten the opportunity to make use of their land. We can send our wonderful farmers that we have over here to make use of the acres and acres of land that they have there to help them develop their own agricultural industry. But our benefit is a certain amount of that product is coming back to St. Maarten.
I have time running, but we good. Don't worry about that. Do you believe the Council of Ministers should have more ministers, or we stick to the 6, if I'm not mistaken? Do you believe we should have more?
Yes. I think what should happen is and then there's no decision making because and this stuff. So the two other ministers I would add is a minister of agriculture, of which I would then take the Department of Sports and put that under agriculture as well as culture, put the three together, so that the minister of youth and education can focus on those two, because those are two extremely heavy ministries. The other ministry I would create is a ministry responsible for energy and sustainable development. Because right now you have the oversight of energy in our country is kind of split, where the minister of ROMI has a certain role, so the minister of infrastructure, but then the minister of economy has a certain role. So that's very difficult, because one has the role on the prices, the other has role on the infrastructure for fuel and energy. That can't work. You need one person in charge of anything related to energy production, so GB, power lines, um, the fuel that comes into the country, reusable energy. You really need someone, if you're going to take in St. Martin much more serious to lower the cost of our people. I would say you need a minister of energy and sustainable development and a minister of agriculture, sports, and culture.
Who gave the authorization to create it? Is the
There,
Parliament or
yeah, so there's a law. There's a law that dictates. So the Constitution first says that the country can appoint ministers. So the Constitution keeps it broad. And then that's the under that article it then says by national ordinance the formation of the government will be listed. So there's a national ordinance that then says you have a ministry of this. All the parliament has to do is to really change that ordinance and introduce these two new ministries, and that's something that we have to do.
easy thing under our government?
Well, when you got a legislator like me, not to brag, but I got 22. I'll be happy to make it my 23rd.
Janet, you good?
Yeah.
Okay. MP, we gonna talk about civil servant. Those police, teachers. Tonight, India is not going tonight. What kind of message you would like to send to those civil servants actually?
Yeah.
Because we see all the ups downs they had, police didn't get paid, all kind of things.
Especially for children, they aren't happy.
Oh yeah.
So today now we know next week is the real day.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, what message you have to send to those civil servants? Sorry.
Any civil servant that knows me and what I've done within Parliament, being a civil servant myself, can see that my actions have spoken for itself. I remember when I first came into Parliament, everybody keep talking about, oh, the police are owed money, the COLA, cost of living adjustment has to be paid, this has to be paid, and everybody's so-called championing. I remember standing up in Parliament and saying, all of these things you're saying is true, but none of you are coming with the solution and identifying the real problem. The real problem comes down to money. You see, if you want to be able to pay our civil servants and give them what they deserve, you have to be extremely creative in finding funds without overinflating what you already have. In terms of, you can't tax the local people more because that's not fair. Those civil servants at the same time are, after all, there to serve the country. So if we're going to say the only way we can pay our civil servants what they're owed and give them an increase is by taxing the residents, then you create a problem where a group in St. Martin is benefiting by punishing the others. But there's so many avenues where you can raise funds without having to tax the local population. A good example of that was what I did with the UTS law, where I started to identify, and that's something we only got to do with the UTS law. And with COVID and everything that happened and all the other laws that was passing, I wanted to do this standard across our government entities. You see, on the books of government, for example, we own GEBE. GEB is, of course, very strategic and very important resource. I would never say the government should ever sell the majority shares. But you can strategically make use of the shares that you own to be able to bring in new investment. For example, you can issue a bond and say we need $100 million, which will be secured by 5% of GDP, for example. And you use the fact that you have a good economic development plan, you've implemented a new transaction tax, you're bringing more money in from the hotel tax, you're doing this to secure that bond. So the shares are never actually in trouble. And even if they were, okay, well, you have to bring in some guy that's going to complain about 5%, but the government still owns 95% and takes all the decisions anyway. We have to start to make use of these government-owned entities to better fund the government. For too long, we let these companies, because they got a CEO and a board, I mean, they can just decide the entire future of St. Maarten, whatever one's having to go through the hell I have to go through to go out there and get votes. Think about it. Most of the CEOs of these companies have much more say, the way we have it now, about the direction of St. Maarten than me. I can't, for example, I am an aviation guy. I know there are issues at the airport. I will champion the changes that need to be made. But ultimately, the CEO is who decides.
Okay.
You see? So if we don't, coming back to what I said over, have more oversight over these companies, but also these companies are making millions of dollars of profit every year. What they do with the money, maybe they make a bad investment, like our pension fund has made over and over, bad investment after bad investment after bad investment. Why? Oh no, they have an investment committee. We have to let them decide. So the entire pension fund of our country is decided by 3 people on an investment committee that I don't even know who they are. Okay. It shouldn't be that way. We have to now make sure that these government-owned entities, before making any sort of decisions on how they invest, a portion of that has to be invested back into the civil service. Why? Because none of those entities can function without our civil service. There is a return on investment for them. So our teachers should be paid by contributions from our government. Our police should be paid, for example. Our immigration is the reason why the airport can function. In everywhere in the world, the government doesn't just say, hey, let me send some immigration officers to the airport to work. No, that airport gets a bill from the government, like the US sends the TSA, or in Holland, the Schiphol gets a bill because we've sent X amount of workers to work at the immigration office. Well, time to send a bill to the airport to say, we give you 10,000 man hours this year, that would be $2 million. Thank you very much. Now you're bringing money from the government-owned entity to pay our civil servants.
So when I listen to you, just like all the entity the government have, they're not getting the money. Government is not getting the money they're supposed to get back.
Correct.
Okay.
And then worse yet, what I want to caution from is that I don't want to also bleed these entities from their money, because they need reserve funds, need new investments. But if I'm looking at them making bad investments that could have been coming to the government to benefit our civil servants and the taxpayer, then there also needs to be oversight on how they spend their money better. So one of the things we have in our manifesto is the creation of a parliamentary committee for government-owned entities. Okay. So we can have more oversight in terms of the financial structure, not because Parliament is going to be able to tell those entities what to do. It's more about getting the knowledge. Give me your investment portfolio. Give me your financial statement. Come do a presentation and tell me your financial performance for the last quarter. And when I get that information, that's when I can say, oh, I don't like how this is going. I need a meeting tomorrow with the Minister of TF so you can come and explain to me, why is the airport performing so poorly in the third quarter? What are you doing to help address some of the concerns that they presented? You see the whole oversight of how it works? It's completely lacking in our country.
Janet?
Yes.
Your last question?
My last question.
Yeah.
What is your vision for St. Maarten? Where do you see St. Maarten in 10 years? Where would you like to see St. Maarten in 10 years?
I would like to see St. Maarten as an independent nation that is proud to be so, because every resident has all their wants and needs covered. I think if St. Maarten makes proper strategic use of our position within the Caribbean, the hardworking people that we have, well educated from a cultural and linguistic perspective, and the fact that we have something sitting there called Molope that can be bringing hundreds of millions of dollars to all the people of this country, and it's doing absolutely nothing. I sincerely believe once we get all of those things in place, we open Molope, train our people, make it clear that whoever comes to our country is welcome, but they have to contribute, we can become both a financially and nationally independent country. That's where I would want to see us in 10 years. It's going to take hard work. We're going to have to learn to elect people who agree with that vision, that don't want to just live on handouts. Because I personally believe if you really give the St. Maarten the choice between taking a fish or getting a rod and going to fish, 99% of St. Maarteners will say, just give me a job. I will fend for myself. The reason they ask is because you're not giving them the job. You're not giving them the opportunity. So I see that opportunistic lifestyle that our people have where they want to work, they want to succeed, they don't want to live on handouts. I see that as the building block for a very strong, independent country that can be the envy of many places in the
And my last question, cooperation, because you have that side, you have friend side, you have we surround with other. And how do you see cooperation? Because sometimes we celebrate 11 November,
Mhm.
we drink champagne, we eat petit food,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
after we go back to normal life.
Yeah.
We see this year between government
Yeah.
work start, but with your government, I don't know, maybe you will be, because this morning I hear something about you might be prime minister, but I don't think you want to be my prime minister. You prefer fight in parliament. I believe so too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice try.
We gonna see.
We
So
gonna see, exactly.
cooperation, how you see cooperation between other side and around us.
Yeah. It is one of the most wasted opportunities we have as friends in Maarten, Dutch in Maarten, Anguilla, Sinbad, Save Station. I mean, think about one very simple thing. How is it possible that an island this small has two power companies? How is it possible that an island this small has a completely different internet infrastructure? You know, as a matter of fact, what's very interesting right now, from what I understand, the main internet that's feeding the Dutch side is coming via a cable that's going into the French side, but we're calling it Dutch internet.
Okay.
That's proof that when our SMPR cable burst, we to this day have been sustained by that fiber optic cable that's coming from the Dutch side. So why did we need two in the first place? We invested millions of dollars to run our own fiber optic cable because the Dutch side need to have our own. No, there are so many opportunities that if as the two countries, and this is the part that I think we don't on a local level understand. A big part of the cooperation will require leaders that understand that above us there is also the Kingdom of the Netherlands and France. We have to let them know we good. We're going to sort our stuff out ourselves. I don't think that is happening on that international level as yet, where we are making it clear there's opportunities for us to collaborate here. Let us decide how we're going to do this. A very good example that works is how we handle the remeasuring of the borders. I don't know if you all have followed that.
Yes.
In the past, one would have thought that it would be Holland and France going to sit down in a room and draw a line and decide for us in Sint Maarten the border of our country. First of all, my deep philosophy is that that border doesn't exist, but for political reasons, let's say it does. If there's going to be a line of demarcation between the two, that cannot be a decision. We cannot allow that to be a decision from people 3,000 miles away. And that was proof that on both sides of the country, both your president, our prime minister, our parliament, we were all involved in this discussion. We handled this on a local level with our own local experts. Of course, you'll have France and the Netherlands going to chime in on anything here or there. But ultimately, our own local people determine the destiny for St. Martin in that sense. If we start to realize that we can tell countries that are former colonizers of us that there's a lot that we can do on our own, that's where the collaboration will be very important. Anguilla, Seba, Stacia, all of us to some extent are part, I would say, even still quite colonized. But we have to now come together and realize that these are things that we can handle on our own. That's what we need to do.
Good for you.
All right.
MP January 11, why St. Martin people should trust you again and bring you back. You live in Parliament.
Yeah.
Why people should vote for you January 11?
I'll answer that question, by the way. A lot of people want to know what I would want to do MP minister this. The results of the election are going to determine that.
Okay.
If it's very clear that the people of St. Martin want me to lead this country, then that's what I'm going to do. And I expect that is the direction that a lot of people want to go because they've seen that the level of work I bring, the amount of research I do into bringing this vision for St. Martin of where we want to bring it. It's one thing to talk it, but I've over the last 4 years built up the resume of actually being able to do things for our people, to represent you very well in Parliament. And I think the people of St. Martin are tired of just voting for who say they can do something rather than who proves they can do something. So if people want to vote for just who they think is their friend or their cousin or who they like or don't like, then they're going to vote the way of the past. But if they're going to vote for who has a proven track record of getting the job done, of working hard for people, having a real passion for serving this country, then I think the overwhelming majority of the population is going to vote for the United People's Party and its leader, Rolando Brasco.
MP, thank you for passing through.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And I have to thank my co-host this afternoon because we're not supposed to be there on Fridays, but we make
sure. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. You see,
we try our best.
I'm glad you told me at the end because I've been feeling bad as well.
So, Janet, here next week. Next week, we don't know if we're going to be your Marty, maybe, but we know the 11 we're going to be in the house, and we ask them to listen, come, or it votes fast.
Yeah?
Fastest is better for us.
I hear that they're going to take really long with my vote.
Maybe it's the son. That's not going to say why you can be Prime Minister or MP. So, guys, we had.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, you hear what he said. You remember what he told me? He said I have to pass through.
Let me say one last thing that I always tell people. Mostly politicians are so very readily available before election, and then you never see them after election. I'm kind of the opposite. I'm hard to reach during election because I'm still working, but after election, I'm always available. Love speaking to the media, love speaking to you. You have me on record.
Well, time we to speak. We're gonna see by June.
All right.
So, guys, we had MP Bryson in the house with us this afternoon. He said what he wants to do for the country, and he wants to continue doing the hard work. He get blows, but he still want to continue to get blows for the country. So let's go. January, people, and next week, do you guys a favor, come out, vote early, so vote in office to get a result faster. So guys, be safe. It's the weekend. Be safe, and don't decide the road is only yours. Be safe, and if we don't see you during the weekend, see you guys next week. Ciao.
That's great. Thank you so much. Lovely questions. Very much in tune with the people's questions. That's what the things they want to know.
A pleasant good afternoon to the party. Welcome on behalf of the Voting Bureau on this postulation day. I'd like to give your representative the opportunity to present your list, and then after that, you can say a few words to the public if you'd like.